everyone, my name is Lars Christensen and thank you for joining me for another Fusion 360 video. Today we're going to talk about sketches. We're going to talk about it on 3 different levels. We're going to talk about it on a beginner, on a professional, and on an expert level. I'll let you decide what level you are on. Let's go. All right, so let's get into this as a beginner. You heard me say this before, probably, if you watch my videos. Whenever we're starting a 2D sketch, we can either sketch on a face or on a plane. Now, when you're starting with a blank screen like this, you only have one option. That is to pick one of the planes that is in here. So I'm just going to select one of the planes. Make sure we look right at it. And then remember that when you start sketching things up, make sure your first sketch entity is locked into kind of the origin here, kind of the nail in space, per se. So I'm just going to click here, and let me just go ahead. As I start sketching, you will see that Fusion tries to snap to like here in case the horizontal direction. I'm just going to go ahead here and place a couple of lines, and you can actually pick up like this vertical constraint. If you hover over here and move up, it will actually make sure that it's vertical to that. Now, it's all about fully defining your sketch. You have to make this a priority whenever you're using a parametric modeling. And what I mean by that is, if I just hit escape here to get out of the line tool, is that this sketch can still move, right? We need to lock it down. We need to take it from blue to black. And you will see that some of the lines are already turned black. That is because they are locked down with these constraints up here. My rule is to always use constraints first and then use your dimension tool over here second. It just means less dimensions on the screen. It means that the sketch is going to react better as you're coming in to make changes and other things. So you will see that we already have, Fusion already inserted a couple of constraints by itself. So here you will see there's 2 that shows up, and if you're looking up here, that is the coincident constraint. If you look here, you can go up and see that there's the parallel. So this is a good way to kind of find out what these do. This one here is the horizontal, and the last one here is a perpendicular. So we can just activate these as we want to. So we can go up here and click on here. You'll see that it turns blue. We kind of press the perpendicular button in, select this line and this line, and we now just made that perpendicular. We can do that again, here, make that perpendicular. And whenever you're looking to find out what you need to lock down, the easiest thing is to get out of the command. Hit escape on your keyboard, hover over a corner, left mouse grab it, and start moving around. So I'm just holding down my left mouse button. And by doing this, I can get an idea about what needs to be locked down as we are moving forward here. And you can see that the sketches here can be fairly reactive and can actually kind of close in on themselves. Now, if this happens where you get like, what the heck happened? Don't forget, you can always do a Control-Z to undo, and we can get it back to where it was. Now, added some constraints here. Now it's time to lock this down with dimensions. So I'm just going to left click once, add a dimension here, make that 60. You might want to go over and do an angular dimension. Click one line and click another line, and then it become angular, 145. You will also see if I select this line here, that Fusion will try to see if I want to make it horizontal, or if I move it a little bit closer to a line, I get, the angled one there. We can do that. And again, if you ever are in a consideration of like, why is this one not turning black? Grab a corner and start moving around, and that could give you an indication of what you maybe need to do. So I might want to do somewhat like an overall dimension right here. And we still have something that is not locked down again, so that moving there, and that means that I probably want that there. So make sure that you do this. This should be it's just not just best practices, it's an absolutely must. If you don't do this, at some point you're going to move in, and by accident you're going to grab a corner and move the sketch, and that will make your extrude and everything else kind of blow up. All right, so going from the beginner to the professional, we start looking at some of the other tools that we can use when we are sketching. So in this case here, if I, for example, want to kind of make a cutout that I want to start at this corner, well, because this is a circular edge, there is no really good way for me to grab this corner here. There is no corner, it's a circle. Well, one of the tools we can use in here is, if we go down to create, if we go and create a sketch on this face here, on that plane, if you go in, is the project tool. And some people probably use this from time to time. Now, there's two different options in here. One is just selecting a specific entity, where we can go in here, we can just select this edge, and when I hit OK, you will see that now I get a line that has that endpoint that I can now go in and grab. So it actually projected this circular edge onto a plane, but means that now I can continue my sketch by snapping into that projected line, and maybe here do my little cutout. I'm going to hit Q for, and if you can't select something, I can't select that triangle because the face is in the way. We can just hold down, use the Q again here, hold down the left mouse button for just a second, and then you will see I can select either that face that I clicked, or I can get the profile now. So that is another little neat trick. It's symmetry, and I like to do all here, and that will give us a cut using that project tool. Now, the other option you saw in the project, if we start another sketch on that same plane, and we go back into the project, now you could also hit P on your keyboard, is where you select the whole entire body. So now it will actually give me edges all around the edges instead of just that one top edge. So now we could go in and we can actually snap in to areas here, give this a dimension from here to here. Let's make it 38, and we maybe also need to just define the length here to 36. Finish this sketch, and again, as you saw before, to be able to extrude this, if I hit Q on my keyboard, and I will only select that face, but to get the profile, I'm just going to hold down the left mouse button for a second, and it will give me the option to select that face or that profile, and I can now go ahead and do the same thing you saw do it before, all and cut through there. Now, if you cannot be able to make these type of cuts, if there is no planes or faces that will let you do that, then you want to get familiar with this drop down here with all the different construction tools. And I'll leave a link down in the description for a video where I went through all of these. One of my favorites is a plane along a path. I've used that in a few videos. Select that one, and now it gives you a chance to actually place a plane that will stay normal to that path. And that can actually become pretty handy inside of Fusion to be able to do that. You will see that it snaps to the midpoint and to each end here, but of course you can control it with distance. All right, so for our experts here, I have a toggle clamp. I didn't model this up. I just went out to my Mastercard, downloaded it, and inserted the right joints to get this movement. But if you ever tried where you model something up, and when you show it to the customer, many times that's when the customers kind of have changes to do, and it can be a little bit of a hassle to go in and change everything, especially if you're just kind of trying to figure out, for example, where these different links should be to get this movement. So did you know that inside of Fusion, you can actually use sketches and joints in different components and kind of resemble the same movement? So what I have here is, you will see I have a leveler here. I have it broken. The line is broken here. And I kind of have the clamping area here that is also broken here. So what we can do, go ahead here and we can place a joint from the end of this to this hole here. And I'm going to kind of resemble what you just saw on that clamp. So I have left a rotation on that. That is fine. And we can actually also, might sometimes be helpful to go in and right click and do a joint limit on some of these. It can help you a little bit when you're trying to solve them later on. And let's go ahead here and make a joint from this one to this one. And again, that has the rotating or revolute joined on it. We can do the same thing here. Right click, edit limit, and go in and do a 90 degrees. All right, now here comes the interesting thing. I'm going to go ahead here and create yet another component, what's going to be kind of the linkage between the two. And I'm going to go ahead here and create a sketch. And I'm going to create a line, and I'm going to snap it into where my breakage was on the first component and down to the breakage on this other line right there, and finish that up. So now I have that line sitting right there. That's going to be kind of the linkage between the two. So with that, again, we can go in and we can get out of this and apply joints, because it still is going to be joints that's going to drive all this. Hit OK to that. Do another joint from here to kind of the same point, right? It's going to spin around there. And then we have that there. And then the easiest way to somewhat simulate this is to go in and do a motion study. If you've never done a motion study, it's pretty easy. Select the joint you want to animate. So I'm going to select that first joint we selected. And I'm just going to select somewhere over on the timeline. And if I do minus 45 degrees and hit enter, and then we can say we want to go back and forth, maybe slow it down a little bit and hit play. And you will now see that we show that movement that you just saw I did on the physical plant. So this is a way where you can use sketches, what is super light, right? And you can now go ahead and you can simulate kind of how that movement would be inside of Fusion. Now, chances are that if you are an expert, you are already familiar with using parameters to drive your sketches. So here I've already tapped in a couple of different ones, and what we can do is if we go into that specific sketch, we can go in and we can click on here, and we can do a height, for example. We can select that one. We can do a, the 25, select that, like that. We can do a W for width. I think I spelled it right this time. And we can even go in and on the extrusion itself, and we can go into this dialog and we can call this minus thickness, right? And we can get kind of the same result as you're seeing here. So in this case, parameters can be extremely useful. But there's other things we can do in here that can be helpful. So if we go back into that sketch again, ever notice that if you're hovering over a sketch, you also get a number. So in this case here, we get D27. That is actually how Fusion remembers this dimension. It remembers this dimension as D27. And you will find these D values are different places. So in this case here, I have a joint that is spacing the length between these two fence posts. And if I go in and edit that, you will see that they are spaced 3,000 millimeters. Now, if I hover over that, you will see that that is D9. We can use this D9 in different levels. So one way we could do this was we could go in and we could say we wanted to pattern. We could say we wanted to pattern that body right there. And I'm going to say we're going to go along this edge. And if I pull out now, you will see that we get the the number here of the three pieces. Now, we could go ahead here and say distance. And if I hit D9, you will see that that first one will come over to the right place. And now I could just start filling up the amount of fence posts that I want. So maybe we go in here, set a couple more. 18 looks pretty good. And now we have applied that. And that means that if we ever went in and changed that joint level here, and we made it 4,000, well, what would happen is that our fence would go ahead and would update, still keeping the length there, but now the width, of course, of the boards maybe have changed. But we can work with that. We have different options in here. So if we just go back in and change this back to 3,000, for example. So we kind of have a nice fence here. We could play with the width of the boards instead of just the length of the boards also. So one way to do that is go back into the parameters. So what we could do in here is we could create a parameter. Maybe we create a parameter that replaces our D9, and let's call that fence length. Like that, and we remember that was about 3,000. And then we're going to create another parameter, and we're going to call this one distance. And if we call that one fence length, divided by the number of fence posts we want, so it's 18, that was what we came up with. Now we got to put it together. So if we go back into our original sketch here, and we select this parameter, and we, instead of using the width, change it to fence length, or change that to distance. So we get the distance calculation in there. And then we could go into our join here, edit that, and call this one fence length. Now we shouldn't see anything really changing right now, except that you will see that as we're going into modify the parameter, and we change the fence length parameter, we're sitting right there, if we change that one to 12,000, you will now see that the boards will keep having whatever distance that we decide to put in there. The boards will just get bigger and bigger, wider and wider, but they will continue to sit there on the post. So, a couple of different ways that you can utilize these parameters.
If this video was absolutely the worst video I've ever seen, completely waste of your time, do me a favor, slap that thumbs down button. Just punch it, kick it, choke it. In the other hand, if it was okay, then do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And until the next time, I hope you have an awesome, awesome day. Take care, folks.